Anyway, I'm hitting the button. We're about to go live. And we are live with another episode of BS Busters. This may be the last Saturday cast for a while because, you know, I've had life changes, stuff's going on, and my schedule has changed. So,
Understandable.
I will be working, a 4-10 shift from now on. I'm basically covering the weekend, so Friday to Monday, I'm going to be working. So, and because I run a business where, a lot of my stuff happens at night, by the time I get home, I will not be able to do the cast because I'm leaving work at like 11.
Right.
So sorry.
We get it.
Yeah. However, we will continue to have a cast on this channel on Wednesdays, and I'll try and join Kenoshi's cast if he's still doing it on Tuesdays or whatever. Anyway, Mr. Red Fox here. But before we go any further, let's have my panelists introduce themselves. I'll start with Louie and then Kenoshi. Louie, you go first. Introduce yourself.
Name's Louie. Pleased to meet y'all.
All right, Kenoshi.
And this is Kenoshi Bombonito. Glad to be here today.
All right, let's dive into these stories. We have an interesting amount of stories, plus some free topics. But let's get to the first story. So I bought TMNT Shredders Revenge on Thursday because this is the TMNT beat 'em up I've wanted for years that Konami and no one else could give us.
Mm-hmm.
And we finally got it. And it's fucking amazing.
That's fantastic to hear. I was looking forward to getting it myself later this year.
Yeah, it's fucking amazing. The physical version's $35. So I didn't get the physical version. I got the PC version. That's like the first week on Steam, you get like a 10% discount. So it's $25 on Steam. I paid $21, $22.
I did the same.
And it's great. Only downside of the game. This game is significantly harder than the TMNT beat 'em ups I played back in the day.
Is it focused around co-op?
You can do co-op. You can do
Sorry, the
online
difficulty
co-op.
I meant.
Well, no, it's just the enemies are more aggressive than they were back in the day.
I didn't play it back in the day, but I don't think this game is necessarily difficult. At least for me.
I found the bosses a lot more difficult than most of the mobs, but the thing is, it depends on how swarmed you're getting. Because as it goes on, you're just gonna lose focus. I mean, split focus too much.
As someone who played a lot of TMNT Turtles in Time back in the day, and a lot of the arcade Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I can tell you right now that this game, okay, how can I put this in a way that doesn't sound like I'm being condescending? Okay, so Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the one that was on the the Konami ones, had a certain feel to them.
Mm-hmm.
This game feels like someone played those games and played them so much that they were like, okay, we have the formula down. We understand why they did this, but we have to modernize it. But in some ways, they may have gone a bit too far in the other direction of modernizing it.
That sounds very Streets of Rage 4, actually. But
yeah, it's made by the same people. Like the foot soldiers. Some of the foot soldiers are very like how they basically balance out how enemies fight and how much damage they take. Like foot soldiers, unless they're like special commando types, should only be like 3 or 4 hits to take down.
Mm-hmm.
Just period. There's some foot soldiers that take 6 hits. There's some foot soldiers that take 3 or 4 hits. There's some foot soldiers that take 8 hits. It's very and these enemies are very aggressive. Like they're very, very aggressive. Now that doesn't really bother me in the grand scheme of things, but I'm saying that, like, okay, if you go into this game looking at this like, man, this is the long lost Konami TMNT beat 'em up, It looks like that. It does not play like that. Get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I understand that. They wanted to go ahead and hit both fronts, appeal to the
Yeah.
those old '90s fans, and still hook in someone like me who only played Turtles in time.
Yeah. Now, I'll be honest with you. If there was only one TMNT beat 'em up that I would tell someone that you should play, like before this one, go play TMNT Turtles in Time. It's fucking
Mm.
amazing. Not
Oh yeah.
that Ubisoft remake, the original. The original.
Fortunately for them, that's lost media now.
Well, it was, but Konami's coming
Oh.
out with a TMNT collection, reshelled collection, which has all those Konami games, the arcade modes and the home console versions. So
Oh.
there's no excuse, folks. There's no excuse. $50, you get a huge panoply of TMNT games. Um, like the rest of my complaints I have with this game thus far are just nitpicks.
Hmm.
Like I don't really like the cover of TMNT. Um,
Oh, the song. Okay, okay.
yeah, the cover of the theme song. I don't
Okay,
like the.
I thought you meant the cover of the game. I'm like, well, yeah,
No,
that's
no, no,
definitely
no.
a
The
nitpick.
because it's a cover. It's a cover of the like. It would be like if someone did a beat 'em up based off of the '90s, the '80s, the real Ghostbusters, right?
Hmm.
And they did a cover of Ray Parker's Ghostbusters theme, but it's like clearly not as good as the original Ray Parker Ghostbusters theme. It's
Right.
like if y'all couldn't have gotten Ray Parker, just do something else. I don't know, just change it up a little bit. But that's like a minor nitpick. The rest of it, they have the original voice actors from the cartoon, so it feels like you're playing um, a version of the cartoon, which is amazing.
Nice.
Um, Hearing Michelangelo, Donatello, Raphael, and Leonardo.
Good to
Um,
hear Rob Paulson again. Nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The only sad thing in terms of voice acting is that James Avery's dead, so I don't get to hear his Shredder voice.
Right, right.
But aside from that, Bebop and Rocksteady are back. You know, way to go, boss! You know, it's like we gotta get out of here, guys. You know, it's others. Aside from that, it's great. Man, I'm really enjoying this game. Like even with the higher than, because I'm playing on normal. Okay.
Right.
But the normal difficulty feels like hard. The easy difficulty feels like normal. The normal difficulty feels like hard, and I haven't even gone to the third tier. I'm like, I'm not even going to touch it. Of course, I'm playing through story mode, so it may be I'm playing with a underpowered character that I haven't really upgraded enough yet.
Nice. Who are you
The
playing
nice thing
as?
about this game is even when you complete a level, it resets your life count. So
Hmm.
if you're playing through the main story campaign, even when you if you say you lose 2 lives in a level,
Mm-hmm.
'cause you start out with 3 lives, you can if you get enough points, you can get a fourth life. Um, so if it say you lost like 2 or 3 lives,
Mm-hmm.
when you go to the next level, that life count resets to
It's good because Streets of Rage
that
is
count.
ruthless with that.
Yeah, I've only died once thus far in the game, but I'm only like 3 levels in because I keep on going back to the other levels trying to get the no hit clear, even though I'm too weak because I'm playing through story mode and I haven't powered up my characters enough yet. So
Mm.
it's harder than it needs to be. Like here's the thing, it could be because I'm trying to be a completionist early on and I'm not powered up enough to really do a lot of stuff. But other than that, this game is great. I'm playing as my favorite turtle, which is Leo. Yeah, I'm a
Nice.
Leonardo fan. I don't care. I know people, they like Raph. Some people like Donnie. Some people like Mikey. I'm a Leo fan because I like the well-balanced approach. Plus, he's got 2 swords. And as we learned from Lloyd Irving, if your offense is if one sword equals 100% offensive ability, then 2 swords equals 200% offensive ability. And if you're fighting someone who has 1 sword, you've got 100% more offensive ability than they do.
Sound logic.
Yeah, it makes sense when you think about it. So yeah, I've always was a Leonardo fan. But if you're not into Leonardo, they got like 3 other playable characters you can play as in the game. Not
They got four, like 5.
6 in total, I
video
think.
games.
I think it's 6.
You have the core 4. Um, then you have
Splinter and
Splinter,
April?
April, and you can eventually unlock Casey Jones, and I guess there's another character you unlock. I don't know. They said, well, that we don't have plans for DLC. I'm like, you have to have plans for DLC. Do you know how many TMNT characters you could add to this fucking game? Usagi Yojimbo, aka Samurai
I'd buy for
Hair.
that.
You
Oh,
could have
absolutely.
Spike,
Mhm.
Raphael's mutagenic turtle, snapping turtle. You could
Mhm.
have a version of Leatherhead. You could bring out alternate costumes for the 2000s TMNTs, where it was all dark and gritty and a throwback to the 80s
Right.
comic books. I mean, look, y'all better do some damn DLC for this game. Here's the irony about video games. When someone comes up with a game and they add DLC and the core game isn't done. But then there's some games where it's like, if you guys had DLC, I'd buy the shit.
Often people don't make that distinction, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, if they were like, hey, no, go ahead, Kenoshi.
Nickelodeon's in charge, and they're probably like, no more money.
Well, if it sells well enough, they might do it. They're like, okay, because if they said, hey, $20, $19.99, and we're gonna add new levels, new areas, and some new playable characters, I'd do that.
Oh, they might surprise us because they just recently added voice acting to that Nick Smash clone of theirs.
Yeah, Nickelodeon's getting a little bit better. Like, even if they did something simple, like, okay, like you beat the game, you can play as Hamato Yoshi, aka Splinter, but his human form.
Mm-hmm.
Even that would be cool. All I'm saying is this. I'm not against DLC when it's done right. My problem with DLC is when your game is a steaming pile of dog shit and people are like, oh, we're going to add an expansion. We're going to add all this extra stuff. It's like, the core game sucks, though. Like, how are you going to, like Bethesda, where the core game is broken, but they're working on DLC. That's when I have a problem. Anyone else have anything else they want to say about the TMNT Shredders Revenge take before we keep it moving on to the next?
Complimenting its pixel art, really. I mean, it's a beautiful looking game. I actually saw some people go ahead and point out some really nice references they have. Like, I believe Mikey has a move referencing Honda. There's actually a lot of Street Fighter pixel art homages in there, and just want to give it a respect for that.
Oh yeah, but you can tell that .emu and Tribute Games did their homework, because a lot of the other moves that the Turtles have are moves that they had in Turtles in Time and
Nice.
Mutants Take Manhattan and the arcade game. It's like Michelangelo's double jump attack is the same move he had in Turtles in Time, where he does that weird like glide down with his nunchuck between his legs that hits enemies. It's weird, but it's useful. Anyway, anything else anyone else wants to say about it till we move on to the next topic?
No.
All right, Activision Blizzard. Activision Blizzard did a self-investigation. They investigated themselves, and guess what they found?
What did they find?
Go ahead, guess. I'm asking you guys. Guess.
Oh. I'm guessing they found that their employees were up to some not so kosher things.
Oh no.
Oh no.
No. They found that even though that some people were doing some terrible things, that they share absolutely no blame whatsoever.
Oh God.
And what I have to say to that is bullshit.
Right.
Bullshit. Like combo breaker. Everyone say it with me now. 1, 2, 3. Bullshit.
I missed a cue. Oh man. But no, that's this is some conspiracy shit there.
Yeah, and it's obvious. It's like when you hear some police department in some town that is rife with corruption, And they're like, we did an internal investigation and we found no one did anything. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna take your
Goodness.
word for it. Like, I'm gonna take your word for it. Okay,
Like if
sure.
Chief Wiggum headed the investigation.
Yeah, we found that no one did anything, and if anyone says anything about it, we're gonna beat them with our nightsticks. Isn't that right? You got it,
Yeah,
Chief. um, that's my best Chief Wiggum impression.
Lord.
It was okay. But yeah, I am not going to trust an investigation by the organization that itself is accused of the wrongdoing. Um, a more serious example would be the Catholic Church with
Mm.
the abusive priests allegations, where for years they would investigate themselves and be like, "Oh, nothing happened," and then after the fact, when people did like independent investigations that didn't have people who had a bias to clear the accused, that it turns out there's mountains of evidence that people were doing things. So the fact that Activision could screw their mouth up, their PR department, to put this out here with the
Mm.
allegations that are against them is, I mean, not
No,
only. No, go ahead, Louis.
no, to say I'm almost at a loss because um, I was thinking level 5 was on a downward spiral with that Nino Cooney thing, but oh no, like now I'm hearing Overwatch 2 is free to play, and then they've got that Diablo microtransaction fiasco with them. My goodness, man, they're like, how do I put it? They're stumbling with broken legs, man.
I'll be honest with you. I'm not against, like, okay, I know that companies have to be greedy because they're
Mm.
trying to make money. The greed is annoying, but I don't have to buy your product.
Yeah.
But the other shit that's going on at Activision Blizzard, the sexual harassment, the discrimination against minorities and women, um, the allegations of people, of women having to lock up the little refrigerators in the nursing mothers' rooms because fuckers would go in there and steal the breast milk.
Goodness.
I mean,
Yeah, that's weird. Why would you do that?
because they're fucking assholes. I mean, they literally, like, people say, there's a saying where people, like, they find out someone's stealing from a small company, from a small business, and they say, you're taking food out of my children's mouths. You're literally taking food out of a baby's mouth, you sick fuck. Literally, by definition. So yeah, I mean, anyone have anything they want to say about it? Anyone want to give their thoughts on this bullshit cavalcade?
Well, as usual, I hope a special place in hell is reserved for these people because it's just so frustrating to keep hearing just how much they keep ducking justice like this. Like they do an internal investigation, they have a billion allegations against them, and I honestly don't think they're worse for wear, and that is absolutely frustrating.
Oh yeah. Bobby Kotick and all the executives, they're gonna leave with a golden parachute. They're gonna get a big payoff, and they're gonna ride off into the sunset. That's what's gonna happen.
Hmm. And I suppose they're just gonna leave Blizzard to go ahead and take that PR. Sorry, take that bad PR for them. Then they'll just be left in shambles, maybe.
I mean, Blizzard's already kind of in shambles because all of the core people who made the Blizzard games that people love, they're gone from Blizzard.
Mm.
Maybe a few dregs here and there, but the lion's share of those people, it's like Square Enix, okay? The people who made the games that people love from the golden age of Squaresoft, they're gone.
Mm.
Most of them are gone. The people you have left are people who wouldn't go. Like Hironobu Sakaguchi and his team, that was the A team for Squaresoft. Those people are gone. You have
Yeah.
none of the A team left at Square Enix except for like a few people here and there. Okay, the B team, who helped make a lot of those games, those people went off and made Monolith Soft.
Yeah.
So who do you
And
have left? The people who wouldn't leave. Like if you go
mhm.
to an organization where you see people who have been there for 10, 15, 20 years and they didn't move up, they just stayed in one spot, they weren't good enough to leave. They were the least talented and they just had to stay there.
So I suppose that speaks to the people who are beneath them now that They're less talented than the least talented. Goodness.
Yeah, yeah. And people wonder, well, why hasn't Square Enix made a game that surpasses Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VI? Um, why? Why haven't they made a game that's better than that? Because they don't
Yeah,
have
no.
this. They don't have the talent for it. The
They
talent
yep,
is gone.
they became a company entirely focused on making the profit first.
Yeah, I mean, they are a for-profit business. A
Hmm.
for-profit business exists to make money, but you can make money while making good products.
Well, I guess let me rephrase that. They sort of became more focused, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, I get
Something
it.
like gathering, seeing what's trending, seeing what the general public, what's selling with them, rather than kind of letting their creative leads just take a chance. Like, because nowadays you wouldn't get something as ambitious like Xenogears, which I'm playing right now, and it's a stupidly ambitious game. You wouldn't get that ever again. Because right now they like what's safe. They like they know what's gonna make money.
Yeah, yeah. And when they do, and instead of like, okay, I understand them wanting to do something new. Like if you come out with something new and use a smaller budget, and then once that proves to be a success, then you up the budget for the next game within reason, and you grow your brand like that. They're just doubling down on Final Fantasy and Dragon
Hmm.
Quest, and mostly
Yeah,
Final Fantasy, really. Kenoshi, you have any
because
thoughts? You're
they're
getting mighty quiet.
and they're squeezing the milk out of Final Fantasy VII. They're
Yeah,
squeezing that milk out of that
that
titty.
teat is dry. There's nothing but powdered milk coming out of it.
They're only making 3 games.
So they broke a
Basically,
game that originally came on 4 discs. Did Final Fantasy VII come on 4 discs?
It's 4 disc, but it was really more like 3 disc and a quarter.
Okay, so they broke a game that came out on 4 discs into three. They're milking that shit into three.
And you know what the crazy thing is? A lot of people seem all right, so it's only going to be 3. But what people are missing out are forgetting is that there's no way they're just going to release 3 games. If they're going to go ahead and extract any stupid plot or moment from any of these from the original game and just go ahead and make that its own concept. For one, have you ever wondered what Yuffie was doing for you encounter in the party? Not particularly, but it's a
No,
game now.
no,
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I never really gave a shit about Luffy.
Yeah.
I mean, I've already said that I feel that Final Fantasy VII is a lesser redo of Final Fantasy VI. The only reason I don't cast that as a major pejorative is I think that Final Fantasy VI, if I had to give it a grade, is like an solid A game. Like it's like a 95, 96. So if you do a copy of a 95, 96 paper and change a few words, and you don't get a 95, 96, maybe you get like an 88. That's still a relatively good grade.
Yeah.
It's not like you failed. But I mean, that's basically what Final Fantasy VII is. It's like it's like Final Fantasy VI, but not really. But a lot of the same tropes and ideas that are in 6 are in 7.
Hmm.
Like you have a main character whose memory is jacked. You have a villain who is part of an organization that wants to take over the world that also the main character used to be a part of.
You
You
got a
have
terrorist rebellion group.
you have an underground rebellion group. You have interesting side characters who just die, and you're like, man, I really like that character. Yeah, they're dead now.
Hmm.
Who almost like Bannon of the Returners. Bannon
Right.
was the perfect healer, and if he'd stayed alive, it's like, man, this dude's awesome. Eris was a perfect healer. She was awesome, and then she died. So did Bannon. They were both really awesome. Um, except like Final Fantasy VII's versions of these characters stink. Like like Kate Sith is a shittier Setzer.
yeah.
Oh yeah. I thought of Cypher. I was like, but that game came out after. But yeah, go on.
Well, Setzer is the gambler whose special abilities are in order to use his overdrives. Basically, they're not called overdrives; they're called something else. in Final Fantasy VI, but it's functionally the same shit across both games. It's a roulette machine, or it's his gamble, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But Kate Sith's version of gamble sucks. It's like,
Yeah, no, Kate Sis is consistently on the bottom list of most party tier lists.
yeah. Even the weird blue mage from Final Fantasy IX, that monster that eats other monsters, is more interesting than.
Right.
Strago is a more interesting character than Vincent. Even though functionally they're the same, it's the same. Like, Vincent and Strago are both the blue mages of their games. But Strago's more interesting.
Right.
Yeah, so in Final Fantasy VI, I think I spent a big chunk of that game in the I forgot what the name of the fields were called, where Og or Oog, or however you pronounce his name, to get him to learn all his monster abilities.
Yeah. I'm
His
just.
abilities to learn monster.
Yeah.
Man.
I agree with you. You hit the nail on the head. What I'm saying is this: old Final Fantasy was fucking amazing. Not perfect. There was issues like, yeah, the graphics aren't as pretty as the 3D stuff. But I'm telling you something: the better the graphics get in the Final Fantasy franchise, the shittier these games get. It's like, oh, these
Indeed.
graphics are amazing. Too bad the game plays like ass.
Yeah.
Ooh,
But
but I guess keeping on itinerary, after Activision, there was the Jack and Daxter port.
Yeah, we can get into that. So
Okay,
basically,
sure.
talking about other things that need to be talked about. I don't know how we got to. Oh yeah, because we're talking about greedy companies fucking up their products. Modders are porting Jack and Daxter to PC.
Yeah, I like this. I just wish it wasn't Jack and Daxter the first game, because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
the weakest.
I guess I have another
This
question. Sorry, go ahead,
is
Kenoshi.
a, oh, I was just gonna say it's the weakest in the
In the series.
in the series,
Yeah.
and yeah. So I was, because I really like the Super Mario 64 port,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty that was pretty good with a lot of the features they had. A lot, like the cheats and the extra graphical abilities. We now have technology that's good enough to give us those the graphics that were in the like the pre-render promotional materials. That's pretty cool. But but yeah, I'm digging this trend of porting old console games to PC.
Yeah, I'm
So
okay
I
with
guess
that.
I'm a little confused. So you say it's a port, so it's not like someone just like dropping an ISO online or something. That's not what this
No,
is.
no, they basically reverse engineered the game to run on PC, which isn't that
Oh,
hard because I mean, wasn't the original PlayStation 2 like 128-bit system?
Yeah, I mean you still need an ISO, but they got, because I know with the Mario 64, you
Yeah,
still
you
need the
need the
Mario 64 file in
yeah
order to do it.
this
It's
the
I
pack
think
file,
that's
I
how
think it's
you're.
called.
It's like an intricate patch. I think it's just the way that they can do it legally. Like, getting
still
in too much trouble.
that is impressive though, because I suppose if you could reverse engineer it and make it sorry, play it smoothly, with keybinds and all that, that is kind of a feat. That's respectable.
Uh, yeah, like I said, I'm piggybacking off of Kenoshi's statement. I kind of I'm like, it's cool that they're doing this, but I wish it had been Jack and Dexter 2 or 3, because those are much better than one. One has terrible hit detection. The levels are poorly designed. Um, like, I would say if I had to play a port of like the Sony's attempts at mascot platformers back in the 6th gen, I would rather play Ratchet and Clank, the first Ratchet and Clank. being ported to PC than Jak and Daxter.
You think they'll go ahead and just because maybe just an assumption, really, that they're porting these in order of release, hopefully.
Well, modders are doing this. This is not
Okay,
Sony.
I think.
I'd be cool. I mean, heck, I mean, here's the thing: if you have a PC that still has a CD drive on it, you can probably just put it in your CD drive and just run it like that if you want to.
I mean,
Uh,
there's a way to turn a PS2 game into nice.
Yeah, I know, but
Pretty
I'm
easy.
being like I'm saying like in the strictest sense of the word. Personally speaking, like I said, I'm glad they're doing this. I just wish it was 2 or 3, because one sucks. One is not very good.
Yeah, it's kind of like the first Sly Cooper. I mean, I think the first Sly Cooper is way better than the first Jak and Daxter, but
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
but it's
but
like the series gets so much better later on.
mm-hmm.
You know, it's like when they did a remake of Ratchet and Clank 1. I'm like, why? Like,
Oh,
Ratchet and
you don't
Clank
think
1
that
is not
one?
that good. What?
You don't think that one got improved? I mean, I never
I
played it.
mean, they added a lot of stuff, but still, at the end of the day, the first Ratchet and Clank is like, okay, if your original product is basic as fuck, there's only so much shit you can add to basic as fuck. You get what I'm saying?
Mm,
Like, I
sure.
would say Up Your Arsenal or Going Commando, much better games to modernize.
Okay.
Especially Going Commando. Going Commando is really good. What were you gonna say, Kenoshi?
Oh, I wasn't gonna say anything. But yeah, like the trend of porting all these classic games, all these old console games to PC. We might see a port of The Legend of Zelda soon. They're doing some crazy things with the the Nintendo 64 emulator with adding frame rate, adding ray tracing. Um, yeah, the games never look better. So yeah,
Exciting.
it's nice to know that people care about the classic games, unlike certain companies that don't seem to care that much anymore.
Yeah, or they don't want to port their stuff. The only company I could say, okay, you shouldn't port your stuff onto PC is Nintendo. That's because you buy their shit to play their shit, which is their business model. Nothing wrong with that. That's how they make a lot of their money. If you're Sony or Microsoft, especially Microsoft, there's no reason for you to be locking your shit behind your console, because I mean, the Xbox was created using originally the X64, the X32 architecture, and then the 64, and now 86. I mean, there's no reason for you to be locking your shit behind buying your device. And Sony figured out, hey, we can make money by selling our games on PC. Wow.
Well, that's when I first heard the Jak and Daxter story. It was like, oh, Sony's porting Jak and Daxter, and then I heard fans were doing it. Then I was like,
Yeah,
oh well.
Sony's not doing it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it could be more interesting versus although Sony's been pretty decent with their ports.
Yeah, I can't get mad because they're doing that Spider-Man port. Because I'm like, man, I don't have to buy a PS4 in order to play that game. I mean, I don't have to buy it on PS4. I can get it on PC where I can, like sketch it out to where I want it. So I'm happy with that. Any other thoughts? Are there? Well, now that we know that modders are porting Jak and Daxter to PC, are there any other old PS2 games where you're like, they need to bring that shit to PC?
Dark Cloud.
Oh yeah.
I agree. Dark Cloud 2, Rogue Galaxy. There's like a ton of old PS2 RPGs that they've never been they're locked on the PS2, and they had limited runs, like the Atelier series on the PS2, the Artonelico series on the PS2, the Art the Lad series on the PS2, Wild Arms on the PS2. There's
Some
so many games.
non-RPG ones. For me, the Punisher for one.
Oh yeah, and that
The
Wolverine
old
game on the PS2, that was
The old
all ultra violent.
Battlefronts.
Yeah, well, I mean, those are on PC already. There's PC
Oh,
versions
okay,
of
okay, right,
Battlefront
right,
1 and
right.
2 on PC.
What else? Trying to think, because you already named a good number of them. Shoot. Yeah, no, I'd say yeah that covers about all of them. Yeah, no, yeah, that's about it.
Anything you want to say, Kenoshi?
Um, let's see what else. What else would be on the PS2? Be worth porting over.
I like to see a Beautiful Joe port.
Yeah, that'd be very
Yeah,
good.
but that's a Capcom thing. That's not a Sony thing. But
That's
I
fine.
agree. I agree that Capcom, all these companies could do more putting their games on PC. Because here's the thing: either do it as a collection and remaster, it, or just put it on PC. Like, and don't charge people $60, $50, $40 for it. Like, if it's Beautiful Joe, just charge people $20. People would buy Beautiful Joe 1 for $20. Do Beautiful Joe 2 for $20. Do the Devil May Cry 2D platform remake in the Beautiful Joe engine for $20. Just do that. Just release that shit, man. Stop fucking. I mean, they fucking released Okami like a cajillion times on PC. And I love Okami. That's like one of my favorite Capcom games.
No, yeah, no, I actually played it last year. Very fun game, although it got pretty. I could see it was stalling towards the end, but still pretty fun.
Um, I agree that the last half of the third act of Okami gets, because you basically just go through a boss gauntlet, which is kind of like,
Right.
like you can tell when an open world runs out of steam when they make you go through a fucking boss gauntlet. Looking at you, Breath of the Wild. Um, yeah, boss gauntlets are kind of like a lazy man's. Well, we need to have the player do something to show that to feel like they've become stronger, so we'll make them go through a boss gauntlet. It's.
I'm used to it due to because that's a Mega Man tradition at this point. Mostly, I think what Okami with the last stretch is because the last level feels so undercooked,
Yeah, they ran out
and
of time. They
yeah,
were like, "Shit, we got to get this out here. We ran out of time. We got to ship this in a month, in 3 months." And they're
like
like, "Shit."
they made me do 3 races just to get around that big mountain. The last one, I was like, okay, I can see you guys. We're on a bit of
Yeah.
a schedule here.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Okami has its issues. What I really do like about Okami, though, is that if you play it the second time, you get all 100 beads. You get basically I can kill everything mode, where you're just one-shotting almost every normal enemy and bosses you're taking. If you take that, I forget the name of that power-up that boosts your attack, like doubles it. If you drink that, you're one-shotting bosses. It's in one hit. It's like fuck you. And so the game gets a lot easier, but I get where you're coming from.
Man,
Um,
it is a fantastic game. Hope for a sequel. Well, a third one someday.
yeah, that Okami on the DS sucked. I know
Yeah.
some people liked it, but I'm like, Okami is a console game. It needs to be on a console. You can't. There's some shit that like, okay, if you're playing an RPG, you can put that on. If you're playing like a 2D style, classical style RPG, you can put a next installment of that game on a handheld, and it's not going to change the scope of the game. But for
Right.
something like a 3D Legend of Zelda or a 3D Metroid or like a big grand adventure, that you need a console for that. You can't do that shit. You can't downgrade that to a handheld. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. Unless you're making some kind of side game.
Yeah.
It's not like the mainline series of the game.
Yeah, but even then, because that's what happened to Federation Force.
All right.
Like they're like, it's a Metroid Prime game, and it's on the fucking Game Boy, the 3DS, and it's like, eh.
No, I'm more inclined to agree with consoles of old, I'm trying to think of one. Like when a sequel to a GameCube game comes out on the DS, 3DS, and it just does like when Final Fantasy 12 got a sequel on the DS, and it was just a
No,
tactics game full on.
that was a spin-off. That was a
Oh,
spin-off.
really?
That was not a sequel. That was a spin-off to Final Fantasy 12. Because Square Enix like this didn't sell well enough. Because they were expecting it to sell cajillions, and I'm like, really? I mean, Final Fantasy's always been kind of a niche. I mean, it sells well within its niche. I mean, really, like Final Fantasy VII's the one that sold gangbusters, and that's because Sony spent, like, adjusted for inflation, like $212 million in its advertising campaign, which was the most
Yeah, no,
expensive video game advertising campaign of all time at that point.
it just has like a large chunk of that niche because I'd like to remind people Ring Fit Adventures sold 3 times as much as Final Fantasy VII Remake, just so you know.
Yeah, but Ring Fit Adventures was also bundled with a lot of Switches.
Oh yeah?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it was like, yeah, you could get it by itself, just like you get Wii Sports Resorts by itself. But at a certain
I
point,
see.
some company, some big box retailers were also like, you know, making their own in-store bundles where it's like you could get this with this for like three, whatever.
Right.
Um, so but still, I mean, it's kind of like when people say that Super Mario World is like is one of the highest selling Nintendo games on the SNES, but but you have to factor in that game was bundled with a lot of Super Nintendos as well. Like, so, like, eh, it's not enough to know the numbers. You have to know how they got those numbers.
Good to know. I'll have to consider that in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, even considering stuff like Final Fantasy, which I suppose does sell leaps and bounds over other JRPGs. Not as much anymore, since I don't really think any's gone over 10 million in the last couple of years. Like even Persona, which went from extremely niche in the West, their last one just sold a little over 5,000, not 5,000, 5 million. Um, but yeah, still, that's still. I personally, for me, I find anything under 20 million, you're still in the niche.
Um, I don't. For
Oh yeah.
me, once you crack double digits, you're not niche.
Yeah.
You're not niche because
Hmm.
basically it's a big enough. It's big enough that people are talking about it.
All right.
You know. Um, that's just how I feel. Like if you sell over, like, okay, if you keep your budget under control and you're an indie developer and your game sells 1 million, you're wildly successful.
Right.
If you are a triple A publisher, it depends. It's all in expectations. Like Cyberpunk 2077, for CD Projekt Red, that game had to sell 30 million. It only sold 18 million.
Oof.
It is a flop because they were expecting 30 million. And the only reason it's sold now is because of discounts and shit.
Hmm.
So they lost a lot of money on that game. And all because they
Yeah.
couldn't afford to delay it for another year and make the game better and spend
It
time actually working on it.
scared them back to doing what they were doing best, which was Witcher games.
Eh,
Well, let me rephrase that. It scared them back into doing what they're getting praised for.
well, what they're comfortable with.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
What they're comfortable with is because like everyone's like, oh, they're really good at making The Witcher. People forget the first Witcher game sucked.
It
Oh
was
yeah, that's
essentially a
terrible.
Neverwinter Nights modded game or something like that.
That game didn't get good until they did the director's cut where they fixed a lot of the fucking issues. Same thing with The
Mm.
Witcher 2. That game, when it first released, trash. The director's cut fixed a lot of issues with that game. The Witcher 3 is the game where they really stretched their legs and showed, okay, this is what we can do. And then, I mean, even though it's like I just can't get into The Witcher 3. I have it on Steam. I've played maybe an hour of it,
I
and
played
not
it.
consecutively. I'm like, like
No, I feel that.
it doesn't resonate with me, but I can see why people like this game because there's a lot of shit going on in Witcher 3.
Mm-hmm.
Not gonna lie. But unfortunately, they rushed to get the Witcher, Cyberpunk 2077 out the door instead of delaying that shit for a year, which is what they should have fucking done.
Honestly, in this case, I would say you guys should have done what Starlink did, where you shouldn't have pushed all this heavy marketing on it because now people were just expecting it for a whole decade, whereas Starlink just kind of ended up fading away from memory. And because there was no images to attach to it, no trailer, no marketing or anything, when it was finally revealed, I don't think it's getting quite as lambasted, in my opinion, as Cyberpunk did on release, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the marketing hurt it. The fact that they hyped people up for a game. And here's the thing, if they had hyped people up for a game and it was just underwhelming like Fallout 4, people would have been angry but not like irate. But they hyped people up about a game and they released the game and it was running like shit on everything but PC. And you had to have a reasonably powerful PC to run Cyberpunk 2077. Like, you can't run that game if you don't have a mid-tier gaming PC.
Yeah.
And there was also all the bugs to account for.
That's what I'm saying. Okay? Because basically, if you had a mid-tier or higher gaming PC, you could brute force the game so it wouldn't have as many bugs. And I have, at the time, I had, an upper, the lowest of the upper mid-tier gaming PCs for the time. Now it's, highest mid-tier, okay? My PC was having bugs the first time I played, and I didn't even get the 1.0 version. Like, they had already patched it when I downloaded it. When I downloaded it off a GOG. There's a part when you open the game for me, because I played as the Nomad, because that made the more sense for the character build I was going for, where, half the time, the opening sequence where you drive to Night City, where shit doesn't trigger, so it's just weird shit happening for no reason. You can still play the game, but it's just okay, T poses. I felt like I was playing a Bethesda game. How buggy it was. Oh, right,
Yeah.
it is. And the thing that hurts the most about CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk is that you can see, if you look about 8 feet into CD Projekt Red, there is a good game in there. But they did not take the time to articulate it with their game design. They didn't give the developers enough time to really show off how good the game could be. And because of this, we're probably going to see other video games, like massive open world video games based on tabletop games, just get destroyed. Like, we're not going to see a Shadowrun massive open world video game because Cyberpunk failed. And that's
So
sad.
they spoiled it for the rest of them.
Yeah, they fucked it up for everybody else because they couldn't. They were like, well, we have to meet our investment date, and they shat something out that embarrassed them as a studio and lost them hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too bad because the Ascent was pretty good. I know it wasn't exactly an open world game, but
it was more Cyberpunk than Cyberpunk.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing about Cyberpunk, they should have probably went the sort of the Divinity Original Sin route with that game because of all the possibilities pertaining to that franchise.
Yeah, but the thing is that they didn't procedurally generate a lot of that content. A lot of it was handmade, and they were already grinding their developers into dust.
Yeah.
With a new engine that the new people weren't familiar with. It was really, like I said, the best thing they should have done is just delay that game for another year or 2 years.
I'd say 2 years at least, because another year, I doubt they'd get any significant amount of work done to fix it.
Okay, 2 years. If they had delayed that game, let's see, Cyberpunk 2021 came out in last
2020?
year.
I want to say 2020. Let's see.
I think it's 2020. Here, let me look it up. Wikipedia. This is what Wikipedia is for.
2020, December 10th, 2020.
Yeah, if they had delayed that game so that it came out this year, it would have been a much better game. They like, look, we need more time.
Honestly, launching it on PS4 probably didn't help it either.
Well, I mean, because like first of all, there were too many SKUs they were trying to make. They were trying to make that game for last gen, and that game was PC first, so you needed a very powerful PC to run it. Trying to get it to run on last gen shit just wasn't gonna happen.
Right.
And CD Projekt Red is a PC developer first. Them most of the time, shit getting ported to other consoles is done by it's outsourced.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of open world disasters in the making, or possibly not in the making, that Fallout 5 and Elder Scrolls 6.
That's right. That's right. Todd Howard himself, the Todd man, Toddrick Theodore, basically said that Fallout 5 is coming after Elder Scrolls 6. Now, they haven't even gotten Starfield out yet, so don't expect Elder Scrolls 6 for another 10 years after Skyrim. And to be fair, Todd Howard might not even be there to do this shit. And hopefully that'll be true because the Todd Howard era of Bethesda has been rife with shit, to be honest with you. A lot
and
of shit.
it's crazy because for I say a majority of people, but I hate to sound rude like this, but by majority I mean lowest common denominator. Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, they credit it to him completely.
Well,
and Elder
Bethesda.
Scrolls.
Bethesda.
Yeah,
It's Bethesda with Todd Howard at the head, but the problem is
right.
that Todd Howard, like I said, the first game that he was the lead on was Oblivion. Then Fallout 3. And a lot of Fallout fans really love New Vegas, but New Vegas was outsourced to Obsidian.
Which unfortunately isn't common knowledge.
Well, I mean, it's common knowledge. They just don't want to look it up because they say, "Oh, Bethesda, okay, Todd Howard and Bethesda."
That's meme culture for you.
Yeah, like most people who know anything about the Fallout franchise will say, "Well, Fallout New Vegas had the best factions and story." And it's the one game that Bethesda had, aside from the engine, had fuck all to do with. Which should tell you something about how shit the storytelling is at Bethesda. You make RPGs, but your worlds and factions suck. I don't know how you did that, but you did.
So coming hot off that Starlink reveal, which I don't know if you guys express your opinions on it. I saw it and
what's Starlink? I don't know what you're talking about. Starfield?
Starfield. My mistake. I don't know why I keep calling it Starlink is that game that flying sim. My mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. It's what Todd Howard said. It's Skyrim in space. That's what it is. So expect a lot of boring ass planets where you have like an outpost with space bandits,
right?
And then maybe like 10, 15 places that have like really meaningful content, but the vast majority would be boring gray bullshit.
Yeah, no, I was watching it with a friend. I was like, oh yeah, it's Prometheus, the game.
I wish it was Prometheus, the game. That'd be interesting. I mean, like I said, it's Skyrim in space, but what people forget is that the reason people like Skyrim is because of the mods. Most people aren't playing basic Skyrim. Like the people who will tell you Skyrim's great to play are people who are playing with mods. You don't want to play base Skyrim. So yeah, Fallout 5 coming after Elder Scrolls 6. Personally, I know Microsoft has taken a hands-off approach to the studios they've acquired, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I hope they renege on that one deal and take Fallout away from Bethesda, because they've shown through Fallout 3 to Fallout 4 to Fallout 76, they don't deserve to have this franchise.
Yeah.
Fallout 3, like 70% of that game is trash. Fallout 4, 85% of that game is trash. Fallout 76, 95% of that game is trash. I mean, like, Fallout just needs to not be in Bethesda's hands, because, first of all, they didn't create the IP. Fergus Urquhart and Leonard Boyarsky over there at In Exile and Obsidian, they're the people who helped make Fallout. When they were
that
Interplay.
right.
Okay? For Bethesda, Fallout's just a fucking IP that they got in a fire sale when Interplay was going out of business that they could use to make money. For Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky, it's their baby. So why the fuck would you keep an IP with people who've shown that they don't give a fuck about it and shown that they're just going to make some bullshit with it? Just take it away. Just let someone who gives a fuck about it make the games. Because clearly Bethesda doesn't.
Yeah, no, Bethesda is they're a very lazy developer.
Yeah.
That's not because when I was looking at that Starfield trailer, it's just that Bethesda doesn't care about RPG elements like at all. They're somewhere between normal RPG elements and skill trees, because when you look at the perks they give you in Starfield, they're all just very basic and broad things that don't really offer that much flexibility catered towards you.
Or customization so that you can
Right.
really tear out your character. Yeah, I mean, Bethesda is a lazy developer. They take the easy way, or I think this is a shameless plug for someone that I am subscribed to on Twitch. You don't have to subscribe to them, but I like listening to them. He's also on YouTube. Zarek Zacharon. He has a saying where he says Bethesda is plagued by the just enough mentality, where they get something to run just enough to get it to ship it. It's the reason why Skyrim, if you play base Skyrim, it has the same bugs throughout all 4 re-releases. It has the same fucking bugs throughout all 4 re-releases, because they got it to the point where it's just good enough.
Yeah, a buddy of mine pointed out Outer Worlds had ladders before Fallout 4 did.
Yeah, Fallout 4, you cannot climb a ladder.
Goodness gracious.
You can't climb a ladder, and there's no vehicles in Fallout 4. And when you do get in a vehicle, it's a cinematic. Like, you're not actually using a vehicle.
Right.
Because that engine, the creation engine, sucks. Or at least Bethesda has implemented it sucks.
At this rate, I only really look forward to them as a publisher now, because they're owned by, what's it called, ZeniMax or something?
Yeah, Microsoft bought ZeniMax, which means Microsoft bought all the shit that ZeniMax owns, which includes Bethesda, the company, Bethesda, the publisher, Arcane, id, all that shit.
In that case, Bethesda's a non-factor to me now. Microsoft can just publish all the good IPs they were.
That's what I'm saying. Microsoft owns Bethesda and owns their IPs. Take Fallout away from Bethesda and give it to someone who fucking wants to use it properly. Stop listening to Todd Howard's bullshit. Okay? This is the man who said, it just works. It just works. Fucker. Sorry. I don't like Todd Howard.
No,
he's rich,
he's not giving me much reason to like him either.
He's a charlatan. He's a snake oil salesman. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's like Peter Molyneux. Except the problem with Todd Howard is that Todd Howard, like Peter Molyneux, whether you like him or not, there are games that he helped to create that defined genres of gaming.
I mean, even if his games aren't, even if Peter Molyneux doesn't necessarily overpromises and underdelivers, at least his games are functional.
Well, I mean, not even just that, but I'm just saying, like, Peter Molyneux has some cachet to talk shit. Because he helped create Gods. which is that game. Oh, sorry, Populous, which is a game that created the God genre. He helped create Black and White 1 and 2, which further defined the God genre. He helped create Dungeon Keeper, which was the whole, like, you're a dungeon master, you're the bad guy. Like, entire genres of games Peter Molyneux and his team helped create. So,
even push forward the immersive sim.
yeah, with Fable. So, he can talk some shit about stuff, because he's got, you know, shit. But it's like this, right? If you're a physicist and you have been published in coming up with a new theory, and you actually pushed it, and like you hypothesized it, you did the experiment, you did all that shit, you can talk some shit about it because you're an expert in that field. But just some random fucker just popping up, yeah, well, I teach a physics class in high school. Shut the fuck up. That's basically how I feel about
Who's that guy that made Daikatana again? I'm forgetting his name. That's
John
what he's
Romero.
reminding me of.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what
People like
he's
to talk
reminding me of.
shit. Yeah, John Romero though. John Romero did John Romero fucked up with Daikatana, but he did help create Doom.
Yeah,
He's the core team.
a lot of it is owed to him.
Doom, Wolfenstein. Like, you would not have modern first-person shooters if you didn't have John Romero and John Carmack.
So it's like if you got John Romero during the late 90s, early 2000s promoting Daikatana, but stretched out over an entire career.
Yeah, that's Todd Howard. Because, like I said, Todd Howard, the game that he was in charge of, that he was the director on, was Oblivion. Now, I'll be honest with you. Oblivion is probably the best Elder Scrolls game in terms of story that Todd Howard was involved with, because Oblivion did something that you didn't see in Skyrim. Oblivion, the main character in Oblivion, you are a side character. The hero of Oblivion is not your main character. Yeah, the hero of Oblivion is the character who your character is helping in Oblivion. You're just a side character. You're not even the main character of the game. Another character is the main character of the game. Skyrim, on the other hand, is fully Todd Howard. Because Oblivion, you still had some of the old guard writing the story and doing the lore and shit like that. Elder Scrolls 5, Skyrim. Skyrim is Todd Howard's baby, and it's a fucking power fantasy. Where you're, like, this is how fucking stupid Skyrim is, okay? If you create a sword and board warrior, you can go to the Mages Guild, to the Mages College, and become Archmage with very little to no magic ability.
Yeah, there's very little verisimilitude, as they call it.
Which is fucking stupid. It's literally fucking stupid. You can become the leader of the Thieves Guild with zero thieving ability. I can't lockpick, I can't sneak, and I'm not stealthy.
Yeah.
But I'm the head of the Thieves Guild. Whereas in Oblivion, you actually had to have skill levels. Like, oh, you want to be a member of the Mages Guild? Oh, well, you have to actually be at least skilled enough to cast certain levels of spells. Get the fuck out of here, scrub. Oh, you want to be in the Thieves Guild? Well, you better be better. You got to get better at lockpicking and stealing. Like, and it was kind of watered down in Oblivion, but it was there. It was really there in Morrowind and Daggerfall. Like, you couldn't even, they wouldn't even give you the time of day if you didn't have the skill levels at a certain point to rank up in a guild. Like, Todd Howard's entire career should be called I watered down core IPs to make them to give them broader appeal to people who don't want to fucking take the time to learn deeper gameplay systems. That's all it is. That's his entire career. Water it down.
In that regard, wouldn't that be like absolutely ideal for Microsoft?
Maybe Microsoft from 10 years ago, not now, because Microsoft wants exclusive content, and you can't have exclusive content if everything is like everything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you think that same? So I can see why you'd be apprehensive about him heading Fallout 6. Sorry, Fallout 5. My mistake.
Yeah.
Elder Scrolls 6,
Yep.
same feeling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Elder Scrolls is Bethesda's baby, so
Mm.
they have more skin in the fight. Fallout, I don't trust. I don't trust Bethesda with Fallout as far as I could throw a company. You can't throw a company because it's not a physical object. It's a financial entity. Um, but yeah, I don't trust Bethesda with making a competently made Fallout game because
Mhm.
Fallout 4 just showed that they would suck at it. You know,
Right.
Fallout 4 is Fallout 4 is okay. Fallout 4 is an inverse of Fallout 3. Fallout
Mm.
3's story is you play a young man whose father left the vault you were in, and you're off to find your father. There's other shit going on, but that's really it's a young man trying to find his father, or a young woman if you play as a female character. You know what Fallout 4 is about?
A father looking for his son.
That's correct. A father or a mother looking for their son. Except here's the twist. You know, there's a twist. Fallout 3 didn't even have a twist. Fallout 4 has a twist. Here's the twist. The vault where you're being sent by Vault Tech that you sign up for is a vault that is into cryogenic suspension. So when your kid gets stolen, you're frozen again. So time passes. So when you wake up to your character, you think it was only a moment. It's been like 60 years since your kid was taken. So when you finally meet your son, he's an old man.
Mm.
Oh,
That's the
That's
twist.
that is
And it's
almost
ruined in the first 10 minutes of the game if you know anything about science fiction tropes, because Bethesda, like their head writer is a guy who says, "This is my rule for myself. Kiss, keep it simple, stupid."
that's
Understand
so
this. The
crap
writer
sack.
the writer of their games, Emil, I forget his Pagliano,
Mm.
Emil, his his big thing is not to write a complex and in-depth story, but to keep it as simple and basic as humanly possible for RPGs.
So these really feel more like RPGs in name only. What is it? I guess you could say it's more of a gassed up single player third person shooter.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
They're really stream like I'll say like I said. Fallout 3 was them aping Interplay and their studios that made Fallout's 1 and 2, aping
Mm.
their style, but not understanding why they made those choices. It's like you're copying someone's answers, but you don't understand why you don't understand the knowledge that the people who originally put those answers down on a paper,
Mm.
why they put those answers down. They're just copying it. And that's the issue with Fallout 3 is that it's Bethesda parodying the design concept of Interplay's studios that made the Fallouts 1 and 2, but not
Mm.
understanding why they made those choices. Fallout 4 is them doing their own thing, and Fallout 4 kind of sucks. I'm not gonna lie. And we all know what happened with Fallout 76. I mean,
Mm.
no one's ever gonna be like, "Oh no, this isn't a steaming pile of dog shit," but it is though. Any thoughts, Kenoshi, before we move on to your Final Fantasy topic?
yeah. No, I don't have any final thoughts.
No, you were gonna say something about. Okay, all right. Your topic,
Or
your
no,
free topic.
oh, the Final Fantasy stuff.
Yep.
Final, Final Fantasy VII remake part 2 was announced. Was it Thursday?
Thursday.
And I was kind of surprised in the Crisis Core announcement, just because I didn't think it was
Actually,
gonna be a full-on remake.
myself, I'm actually not surprised at all because I don't want to put everything on Nomura. It's just that he is a creative director of these games. Him and Kitase definitely are like two of the creative minds on it. They really wanted to salvage all those bad ideas they had during the early 2000s when they were trying to make Final Fantasy VII a franchise, and it's just so shameless. I fully expected this because even in the first part, they drop a couple of those plot threads that never got resolved or went anywhere. And they even admittedly say they wanted to incorporate those elements into this. And I'm like, oh god, this is just used guys as
Fan
big,
fiction. It's their fan
yeah,
fiction. It's their canonized fan fiction.
right.
Yeah, I know people that weren't particularly happy with how the remake ended or how they handled the remake.
Yeah, because they completely
And
changed.
so
They completely changed. No, sorry. Go ahead, Kenoshi.
everything. Yeah, they changed everything. It's actually pretty polarizing. I didn't even for as little as I know about Final Fantasy VII. I didn't like how they changed it. So why are
Yeah,
you doing
because
this doesn't make any sense.
well, I mean, even though I say that I hate Final Fantasy VII, I think it's overrated. I do understand what Hironobu Sakaguchi was trying to.
Sakaguchi.
Yeah, what Sakaguchi was trying to do. And the whole point of Eris dying is that Eris is the first person that Cloud himself, not going off of Zack Fair's memories that he absorbed when he touched Zack Fair. As Zack Fair lay dying from being assaulted and horrifically wounded by Sephiroth when he went insane. The first person that he liked himself and wasn't a remnant, because like really Cloud doesn't like Tifa. Zack Fair liked Tifa. Okay, that's not his that's him going off of someone else's motivations. Eris was the first person that Cloud liked himself. That he was interested in himself. So her being murdered. No, go ahead, Ginoshi.
So does Tifa think Cloud is Zack?
No. She realizes
the whole time is doubting Cloud because none of his story's adding up. Like if you just play it, you can tell that she's sort of just going with it because if she tries to touch on it,
he
Cloud
shuts
is gonna
down.
freak
Yeah,
out.
he shuts down. Like she sees that he's wearing forget the name of the little special squad that Zack was in.
Soldier.
Yeah, he's wearing soldier outfit. So she knows and plus he's got Zack's sword. So she's like, well, he must know Zack. And he has some of Zack's memories, but because he doesn't have a context for it, because he's just a fucking Genova clone, one of the failed Genova clones, like one of the 3 failed Genova clones, like he doesn't have context for it. And all of his motivations, his hatred of Sephiroth, his you know, I'm a soldier, all this stuff. All of that is just the memories he got from Zack. Okay? When he meets Eris and he starts to open up to Eris and start to get interested in her, that's the first part. Like the whole point of Final Fantasy VII in terms of Cloud's journey is him becoming human.
Yeah.
It's his journey to become human. Like I said, it's a shittier version of Final Fantasy VI where Terra's journey is her basically becoming what it means to be human. It's just a shittier version of it. That's all it is. Yeah. And if Eris doesn't die, then he doesn't have that heartbreak, which basically is like shit. You know? It's like Spider-Man. In order for Spider-Man to become who he is, Gwen Stacy has to die.
Yeah.
Gwen Stacy has to die.
Yeah.
In order for Cloud to become who he's supposed to be, Eris has to die.
Yeah.
And if you change that, it dramatically changes the game. And so Final Fantasy, the remake isn't, they shouldn't call it a remake. They should call it a reimagining.
Or, honestly, that's one of the biggest things because they told you it was a remake and it's not. It's not
or an alteration. Final Fantasy VII altered, which would make more sense.
But yeah, my thoughts that apparently that Crisis Core isn't. Some people are claiming that it's a reimagining of, not a reimagining, but more of a remastering of the original Crisis Core. And I played the original Crisis Core. I don't think it's a terribly strong. It's the best of that compilation, but that's not saying much. I find it.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I didn't want to cut you off.
Yeah, like if it's just a really pretty remaster of a PSP game, that's gonna be a letdown.
They've done it before.
Yeah, because goodness gracious, because the PSP game is rough. That is,
It
I just
is.
can't.
It's hard to
Yeah,
get through. Yeah, it's like this
yeah,
is. They actually were okay with this.
yeah. And if they release just a gassed up remaster of that, oh my god, that's worst call in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, I'm already seeing them. A lot of people don't like the comparison to Kingdom Hearts. This is what Kingdom Hearts did. They just went ahead and released multiple installments. The only difference is these installments were of importance to this saga they were telling,
Not
while these
really, but I get what you're saying.
well, let's put it like this. They were of greater importance to that saga than these that they're telling, where they're just sort of just isolating. Like they're literally just making an entire flashback character into one massive arc, or they went ahead and made Yuffie's backstory into a miniature arc. And I was like, I don't really want to play these little mini-sodes you guys have in between installments.
Little
That's just,
vignettes. This should have
or,
been. This should have been DLC
yeah,
at the most, or even just shit that you unlocked that was in the core game. But
right.
I mean, let's keep it real. Square Enix is not SquareSoft, because under
Hmm.
Hironobu Sakaguchi, each console generation you got 3 Final Fantasies
Indeed.
plus other SquareSoft RPGs. Because
Right.
the third gen you got Final Fantasies 1 through 3. The fourth gen you got Final Fantasies 4 through 6. Plus Live Alive and what was the other one? Shit, Bahamut Lagoon,
Mm.
Seiken Densetsu 1 and 2, or 2 and 3. Plus the 3 Romancing Saga games. Like there's, oh god, they were prolific during the 4th gen.
Oh yeah.
Even during the 5th gen, you had Final Fantasy 7 through 9. Plus Tactics. We're lucky if we get 1 Final Fantasy per console gen
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, even during the sixth, well, they were no longer SquareSoft during. Well, they were SquareSoft for a little bit into the sixth gen.
Yeah, I mean, even during the 6th gen, we got Final Fantasy 10, Final Fantasy 12, which is technically, I'm going to take that out because that's a tactics RPG. That's not Final Fantasy 12.
If you're
Um,
willing to count 10 too, but if you're willing,
no, fuck that game. Fuck 10 2.
mm.
I hate that game.
I have mixed feelings about it. The story was really dumb. It was a bad magical girl anime BS game.
And quite honestly,
But it had a decent fighting system.
I mean,
I just don't like Final Fantasies having sequels. I just don't feel the need. They're so
I
nicely
agree.
wrapped in a bow.
I agree. Final Fantasy should not have a sequel. Final Fantasies should not have a sequel. They like Final Fantasy under Hironobu Sakaguchi was always like this. Basically, it was a series of familiar concepts wrapped in put together differently. So you'd have black magic, white magic, red magic. You'd have like the summons, but every time it would be in a different package, a different scenario. That's what made it great. Then we got Final Fantasy 13, and the series just shat the bed. Liquid diarrhea.
Yeah, no, like they're no longer distinct from each other, which is unfortunate. But yeah, back on 7. So that Crisis Core remake, I expected it, but I'm not particularly jazzed for it because I just don't like any of those bad ideas Kitase and Nomura came up with. And then there's there was so much 7 they showed. There's that first soldier battle royale game they're pushing, which if I would not be surprised if that turned out to be important to the series they're telling. And then in addition to that, there was this Ever Crisis game, which I'm both curious and taken aback by because it's essentially a retelling of the entire compilation in classic Final Fantasy VII turn-based format, which I find confusing that you're even releasing because you're essentially it's like you're re-releasing the original Star Trek movies alongside these new 2010 ones. I'm like, well,
They
why are
did
you
it.
doing that?
They did that. Look, here's what you need to understand about old school Trekkies, because I'm one of them. We will
Mhm.
buy the original series anytime, as long as it's a decent cut. Like, oh, we remastered the original, old school, the original series, Star Treks. So the
Mhm.
motion picture, Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, Voyage Home, Final Frontier and Undiscovered Country. If they say they're remastering it in like 2K or 4K, we will buy that shit because we're
All right,
because they were that hardcore about it.
let me put it like this. Let's say if they went ahead and remade those movies in addition to releasing the newer remake trilogy. That one was just a more accurate remake of the old ones, and this is just a complete new take on them. It's just odd to me, in my opinion.
No, I get it. I get
Yeah.
it. I'm not calling it against you.
Oh no worries. And then there's Rebirth, which everyone is paying their pants for, but quite honestly, I have no idea why. I just saw Sephiroth and Cloud walking in some greenery, and that was it.
Yeah, it seems like Sephiroth is in your party, and it's just like, why are you doing that? Why are
It's
you
because
destroying
it's
the
apparently
mythology of Final Fantasy VII? Like,
apparent.
this is below.
No, I hear
Sorry,
you.
go ahead.
No, I got you. Because someone went and told me it's essentially an extended, super expanded upon. Because in the game you have you have several flashbacks to Cloud's quote unquote Cloud's time with Sephiroth, which is really just Zack's
It's Zach's, yeah,
interactions with him.
yeah.
Those are about altogether maybe an hour, two tops, but they're essentially. Well, I can't assume that they'll make it into a full game, but this is just that moment expanded upon. And then I think to myself, why even expanding upon that point of the narrative? It's already kind of shown from the first game that Cloud's a phony.
Well,
Like you've
he's
already
not a
spoiled it.
Cloud's not a phony. He's okay.
His story, I
Jesus.
meant.
Uh, it's yeah, but in order for it to be a phony, it would have to be an act of active deception. He
Mm,
has the memories of Zach Fair. That's all the memories that he has. It's not like he's actively. Well, I would say something, but I might get found out. He literally like they were investigating the break-in at the Genova facility where they were keeping the remains of Genova and the other failed clones that were just
mm,
monsters. Most of them were monsters. And I think the first Genova clone, the one that was perfect, that just died for some reason. I forget the exact things. But then there was Sephiroth and there was Cloud. Each one after the first one was a exponential drop in power in terms of how powerful they were. So Sephiroth is insanely powerful, but the motherfucker that he's the number two for was even more powerful than him, but he died. Um, so basically, like Sephiroth goes in there and sees, oh shit, the Genova thing. He reads the things like, oh shit, I'm a fucking clone, and they've been keeping the clone, my clone mother, in this facility, and he loses his fucking mind and murders the other soldier members, grievously wounding Zack Fair, who's all fucked up, and he's like Zack Fair like one of the holdings pods opens up, out comes Cloud, and he's, it's implied that he's naked, kind of like Terminator style, and he just sees some dude lying there, and he like grabs the dude's sword and tries to help him a little bit, I guess, like instinctually, and when he does that, he absorbs Zack's memories.
Oh,
But those are his only memories. He absorbs Zack's memories and some of his personality, and that's why he's all like, that's why he has this hatred for Sephiroth, even though he doesn't, like, in reality, he has no
Sephiroth
real.
and Cloud have no actual contextualization of each other. Like,
No,
uh,
no, he doesn't get any real motivation to hate Sephiroth until Sephiroth kills his wannabe
right.
girlfriend Eris. When he kills Eris, then he's like, okay, now you done it. Now you done fucked up.
Mm.
And Tifa
But
up
yeah,
there, I want to fuck you, Cloud, but you're not giving me any play. No
but
play
yeah,
whatsoever.
with with Rebirth, I from the looks of it, it looks like they're just going back to some of the classics Final Fantasy VII story beats while telling me they're not going to. I guess I appreciate their honesty this time around, but quite frankly, when I look at it, it just looks like the same old shit to me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
This seems like a betrayal.
I mean,
Like the by people, for people who really like this game, and from some of the stuff I've heard, this game just seems like a betrayal.
yeah, yeah. A bastardization of a classic. I mean, some people can. I never thought Final Fantasy VII was a classic, but I know there are people who really like it.
Yeah. Um, What else in addition to there was Rebirth, the first soldier, Ever Crisis, and nope, that's all the Final Fantasy 7 on there. I'm disappointed in Square for this one presentation because it kind of irks me that they literally gave an entire presentation just to Final Fantasy 7 products. It made their presentation, in my opinion, the weakest of the bunch of the whole Summer Game Fest thing. Um,
Well, it was what, the 25th anniversary of Final Fantasy VII.
I suppose, but honestly, I think that in itself is more of a section of a presentation rather than a whole presentation on its own, in my opinion. Like I remember a while ago, they said they're going to show some Star Ocean news in June. They're going to show some other products in June. I'm like, ah, come on, this could have been perfect, but that's just me.
It's Square Enix. Square Enix is not
Hmm.
what they used to be. I mean, I
Hmm.
don't know why people can't get that. Square Enix is not what they used to be. Square Enix used to be. Well, actually, Square Enix was never that good. Squaresoft was good. Square Enix sucks.
Square Enix petered off for me at around 2008, just about.
Yeah, yeah. And I want them to be good, but they just keep on fucking up. I don't know what to.
No, you're right. Honestly, if I could just isolate their creative business unit 3, let them have their let them be their own little developer,
You mean the
that'd be nice.
people who make? Well, I mean, Yoshi P. Like the only thing that gives me any hope about Final Fantasy 16 is that Yoshi P is in charge of it. The guy
Hmm.
who helped turn around Final Fantasy 14. So I mean, and Final Fantasy 14 has a lot of callbacks to old school Final Fantasy. So clearly he understands that, like, the old school. Like, here's what Square Enix doesn't fucking understand. You would not have Final Fantasy if you didn't have old school fans. And why they keep on antagonizing us, I don't understand.
Right. Now, like they need to do what Resident Evil just recently did, where they they stopped trying to go ahead and follow newer trends. They stopped with the high end action bits of 5 and 6, or the Twitch streamer horror takes of 7 and 8, and return to basics with 2 and 3. And now they're all the better for it.
Yeah, yeah. So it's Square Enix. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I hear ya. I mean, I've already found my JRPG fixes everywhere else. Like I'm not in any. I'm not desperate for Square Enix to turn it around. Like I still got Atlas, still have Monolith. Soon I'll try Nihon Falcom. Yeah.
Yeah, their games are a little. The East series is a little like, or unless you're talking the Trails in the Sky series.
Trails. Yeah.
That series is hard to get because there's like 13 games in that series, so you
Yeah.
gotta pick a point to jump onto the carousel while it's spinning. It's like, what's a
Yeah.
good time to jump in? It's like, have you ever seen the Double Dutch and you're trying to find a good time to jump in and start jumping? That's what it feels like with the Trail series. Like, goddamn, I don't want to get
I
hit.
I have a stubborn need to always start things at the beginning. Like when I started Final Fantasy, I went and bought the GBA ports. When I started Fire Emblem, I tried my damnedest to get that Shadow Dragon port for the DS. I have a stubbornness about me.
All right. Well, do whatever you got to do.
Hmm.
Anything else? Anyone? We're at the end. Anything you guys want to pimp out, announce, talk about, whatever, whatever?
Um, let's see.
Well, I'd like any listeners, if they're willing, I'd suggest that they look into Evil West, very weird West third-person shooter slash with some beat 'em up elements from Focus Entertainment. Looks interesting enough. That's all.
All right.
What's it called?
Evil
Evil
West.
West.
Evil West.
Evil
Gotcha.
West.
Sounds interesting. Is it out?
No, it's coming out, I think, in September.
Oh, okay.
Um, anything you want to pimp out, Kenoshi?
Project Council 7:30. Tuesdays. Be there or be wherever.
Be there or be square,
Nice.
sucker.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Mr. Red Fox, owner proud to BS Busters. This may be the last Saturday cast for a while, but that's just because my schedule changed like dramatically.
Hmm.
So I'm working a 410 where I'm basically working nights from Friday to Monday, but I have
I see.
Tuesday to Thursday off, so is what it is. Anyway, so yeah, we will have our Wednesday cast still. That's the end of this video. This podcast. Thank you for joining. We were going to cover some other topics, but we can save those for another time. Just the only thing I'm going to say is Ni no Kuni Crossworlds. Fuck that game, and shame on you, Sony, for releasing Last of Us again.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we didn't. Yeah, we didn't talk.
There'll be time
Well, I
next
think-
week.
Yeah,
I mean, people. Yeah, people. I guess they wanted to get the bad taste out of everybody's mouth for the first Last of Us or second Last of Us. So like, hey, remember Last of Us 1? We'll sell it to you for $70.
yeah,
Goodness.
yeah. Fuck that.